welcome! In today's video I'm going to use my sewing machine serger to stitch some stretchy fabric. I'm hoping to make a copy of this top. Now I've actually got two of this top, both identical, and I have been wearing them for years and years. So much so that the other one, the same as this, actually has holes under the armpits, and it's not just the seam that's giving way, the actual fabric is wearing thin and breaking down. And this one is not far behind it. So while I'm back to sewing again, rather than going out and buying a new top, I thought I would make one. So at Christmas I treated myself to several lengths of fancy t-shirty fabric. And I chose this one specifically in mind of copying this top. It stretches in both directions, side to side and up and down. Now it is quite a bit more stretchy than the top I'm planning to copy, and I think that is mainly because the top I'm copying is so old and well worn and been through the washing machine lots and lots of times. So my fabric is 149 centimetres, so 1.5 meters wide, and I chose to buy 1 metre of it. Boom. Poof. So hopefully by the end of the video we'll have a lovely new summery top in this beautiful yellowy orangey flowery t-shirty fabric. Now I don't know if I said, I think I did, I've got two of these tops and the other one is much more worn out than this one is, so I've decided to sacrifice it and unpick its seams so I can use it as a sewing pattern to recreate a nice new summery top. So here I have my original top all taken to pieces and laid out onto my nice new fabric ready to use as a sewing pattern. Now my piece of fabric is 149 centimetres wide and I bought 1 metre of it, and as you see my pattern pieces just fit. I've got a front panel, a back panel, down in the bottom corner there's a sleeve, and there's enough fabric to repeat the sleeve up here, so I have one for each arm. This little stripe here is actually a cuff that goes on the sleeve. Again, there's enough fabric just on that far side to make another sleeve cuff for the second sleeve. And here we have the two pieces of neckband. A strip that goes from the shoulder round the back of the neck, and this long horseshoe shaped piece that goes from the shoulder and down the front of the neck. And these both need two pieces as well. But I think with a little bit of shuffling around, I can just manage to eke out enough fabric to fit this top. But I've run into a problem with the pattern on this fabric. In order to get all my pieces to fit, I've had to put the back panel on upside down, which is absolutely fine as far as constructing the garment is concerned. The fabric stretches in both directions and it would hang and flow beautifully. But these little flowers on this fabric are actually all growing in the same direction, as flowers should. So by putting the back panel on upside down, when I make the garment, its pattern will be upside down. So in close up, here's these flowers growing the right way up, and here they are on this side upside down. And although it isn't a huge difference and extremely noticeable, it would drive me crackers to know that the back on this top is actually upside down. So I went ahead and purchased myself a 2 metre of this same fabric. I'm hoping that I'm going to have enough left over to make a standard t-shirty top. Then I'll have two tops made with this lovely flowery yellow fabric. So now I'll be able to lay the back panel on my original piece of fabric and my front panel on my new piece of fabric, and everything will be growing the right way up. Okay, here goes. Let's get cutting it out. There. I don't need to cut along the hemline because I laid my pattern piece down in such a way that its hem is lying against the edge of the fabric. I did this for both the back and the front panels. Not only save cutting out, but make maximum use of the fabric available. Hey, first piece, all cut out. Now this piece is the t-shirt. My t-shirt pattern is for half of the back panel. I've laid it on a fold in the fabric, so when it's all cut out, I'll be able to open that and have a full back panel. The front panel is laid out in exactly the same way on my other piece of fabric. Yay! So I don't need the t-shirt for a while. That's my next sewing project. So I'll just leave that pinned on its paper. We'll carry on cutting out the rest of the bits. Wonderful, that's all my fabrics cut out and ready to make this top. And an extra t-shirt as well, which I wasn't originally planning. There's not much fabric left. I have 4 scraps about this size, and one of them I'm going to need to make a neckband to go around the t-shirty top, because that's the one piece I haven't cut out yet. So I've made good use of my 2 meters of fabric and should hopefully end up with 2 tops. I have the front for my original top I was planning to make. Its back, a neckband which goes here, and a little strip for the back of the neck. Oh, that's the wrong way, there it is. And a little strip for the back of the neck that will go around there. There's actually 4 thicknesses of fabric here, and I have the sleeve still folded in half. So that'll be my sleeve, and 2 little strips of fabric to put a cuff on that sleeve. And that's all my pieces for the main top that I'm planning to make today. But because I had to buy the 2nd meter of fabric so I could orientate my pattern the right way up. Oh, let's take these off. Where's it gone? There. I had enough fabric left over to cut out the pieces for a t-shirt. I made a pattern from this t-shirt actually the other day. So I'm using that pattern to give me a sleeve, a front and a back. So when I've made my flowy top, I'll be able to stitch together a t-shirt as well. So let's get sewing. Actually, let's get pinning these pieces together first. Then we can stitch them up on the serger. Yay! I think first of all I'll put my front and back panels together. They join at the shoulders and down the side seam under the arms. So we'll do that first. Now you may have noticed when I was originally laying out my pattern pieces that my front panel is quite a bit wider than the back panel of this top, and that's because the front panel has lots of little gathers in it just underneath the neckband, which gives it some space and fullness to fit the bust. And makes it all nice and flowy around the waist. Now I can't guarantee that my hemline is going to match because I just laid my pattern pieces slightly higher up the selvage edge of the fabric to allow for my hem, and I didn't measure anything because I can adjust and square up the hem when I turn the hem. So I'm going to start my pinning at the armhole because that bit matches the pattern. So matching these fabrics together along the side seam and pinning them up. So right side to right side. Something I have noticed with this lovely stretchy fabric is it likes to go really curly at the edges. It's a bit of a fiddle flattening it out to pin things together. Once they're pinned down, they hold nice and still. Well, this hem's not bad, we're only a little bit out. Have to be nice and delicate and gentle with your stretchy fabrics, because I want to be laying them nice and relaxed and flat and not pulling and stretching and knocking things out of shape. Now the other side. I'm going to turn it, how will I stitch? Oh no, if I put my pins in upside down, no, they're fine. Zzz. So this side I'm going to stitch like that. So I want my pins going the other way. So on the opposite side, I'm starting at the armpit again, pinning up that seam. Now which way are we going? That way. Well, that's strange, my pins are all upside down. Let's turn it round. There.
The direction I place my pins matters, so they will be easier to take out when I'm running it through the sewing machine. Or in the case of today's project, the serger.
Inside out, but we have a top. Starting to look a bit like a top at last. I've decided before I switch the machine on and start sewing, I'm going to pin as many pieces of this project together as I can. The neck band comes in two sections, a front and a back, so I will join the front and back pieces together. And the little sleeves join up with this tiny little seam under the arm. Now the sleeves have a cuff on them, and I've noticed on the construction of the original garment they've added the cuff and then stitched up that underarm seam. Now I think that's quite scruffy, untidy and avoidable. So I'm changing the construction and I'm going to stitch my sleeve underarm together, stitch my cuff strip together at that same seam point, and then match up my seams and put them face to face and turn them inside out, or the right way round, so that that joining seam on the cuff band can be completely hidden and give me a neater, tidier finish, I hope. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll get this machine switched on and do some sewing. So here goes the sewing. Let's start with this tiny seam on the sleeves. Yes, it's fine. So that sleeve and the other one. Second sleeve. Before I cut that off, I'm going to get really clever. This is the sleeve band, the little cuff that goes around the bottom. And the second sleeve band. Where's it go? All joined together like a row of washing. That's my 2 sleeve bands. And my 2 sleeves. Put them there. What's next? Oh, the little tiny bands on this neck band. Another fiddly little bit. And pinned my neckband pieces together. And next we need to stitch this big circle on the inside and then turn them right side out. But I'm going to stitch the main body of the top first because this round seam might be a little bit more fiddly than the big long straight seam down the inside of the top. Let's stitch the top together. Yay! All done. Okay, let's turn it the right way around. How are we? I can't see you. Yay! It's up! Woohoo! I was suddenly thinking this neckline looks a bit plungy and low, but I've got a 2-inch wide neckband to add to this yet, which will bring it up nicely. So that's okay. Panic over. Ooh, very nice. So now more pinning while I attach the sleeves and the neckband. Oh, I've got to stitch the neckband together. Do that in a circle next. Oh, will that fit on there? Hey, it fits on there. All the way around. This piece here actually comes off the machine and leaves me a little narrow bit that would be perfect for doing something like this. But while this actually fits around here, that'll do. This is definitely going to want ironing into position to make it behave and do what it's supposed to. That's sitting much nicer now it's had an iron. Looking good. This fabric so desperately wants to curl at its cut edges. I have still added a couple of pins along the edge to keep it lying in the right direction until I'm ready to pin it onto the top. In fact, I think that's the next job I should do. Attach this neckband to the top. So where's my top? Yay! So here I have the neckband all pinned in place, ready to go through the serger. I won't pretend this wasn't a challenge because it most definitely was. The back of this neckband, from shoulder seam to shoulder seam and across the back of the neck, was a perfectly normal stretchy neckband that fitted in beautifully. But when I came to the front, from the shoulder seam to here, and the same on the other side, from the shoulder seam down to here, was a perfectly easy fit and pinned up beautifully. But this little portion here, as you can see, I have lots and lots of pins holding it together, has all these little tiny gathers in the back. Well, actually it's the front of the actual top, but the neckband itself needs to lie nice and smooth and flat. There were so many little tiny gathery pleats. I decided to take an orange sewing cotton and just do a little running stitch along that front edge to create these gathers. Normally I would just do it with pins and hold it all in place, but there were so many tiny pleats. I felt I was more safe and secure with an extra bit of stitching. Then, having pinned it all in place, I decided to run a line of standard sewing machine stitchings along this front little edge just where all these millions of pins are, because even once it's been through the serger to finish off these raw edges, I don't want this area to be stretchy, so the sewing machine stitching will hold it nice and rigid. So now I've actually run that sewing machine stitch, I could take these pins out and they won't get in the way when I'm running this through the serger. I am still going to need all my other pins though, because they're holding it together. It's just this little front bit that's been through the sewing machine once. So into the serger we go. So I'm starting at the back of this neckband, the back of the garment. Right, let's turn this around and see how it looks. Push you out the way. So here's that fiddly neckband, sitting very nicely. I'm pleased with that. It just needs its inside folding in and hemming down. Ping, it wants to curl up. So here we have it with that neckband all in place. It does still need turning inside and hemming along its seam edge. I'll do that by hand because I like finishing hem edges off by hand. It gives a much neater, or I can get a much neater, tidier finish. I'm going to put this on, see how it looks. Where's its front? There. Ugh. Not quite finished, but it's worth constantly trying things on when you're making them. You can make any adjustments now before you finish the garment and can't get to all those open seams. Ooh! Ooh! Starting to look nice. Oh yes, I'm happy with this little neckband. So next, the sleeves. So I shall do the sleeves. They're pretty basic. Hand stitch the inside of this neckband and turn up the hem and it'll be done. So here's my sleeve with its shoulder joining onto the garment and down to the armpit, and along the edge of this sleeve there's actually a little cuff. Now my cuff is slightly smaller than my sleeve. That's because there are a few gathers on the outside edge of this sleeve to give it a slight puffy look, and I think there's some gathers across the shoulder as well, so we get a slightly roundy puffy sleeve. So that's my next job. Put this band on the sleeve and put the sleeves on the top. Just like my neckband, the cuff band on these sleeves has a small area that is very heavily gathered with these tiny little gathers. Just like before, I stitched a running stitch through the fabric of the sleeve and gathered it up so it becomes the same length as the fabric that is the cuff. So hopefully, all stitched together, that'll give me a nice puffy little sleeve. I've already done one sleeve and it worked very nicely. I'm pleased with it. This still needs turning under and hemming, of course, but the gathers have worked very nicely to give a nice bit of puffy detail to this finished sleeve. Sleeves attached and we're almost finished. Some little bits of hand sewing for me now. Turn under the neckband and hem it on the inside. And the same with the little cuffs on the sleeves. They need turning under and hemming on the inside. And obviously hem on the bottom of the garment. I think I might do that on the standard sewing machine. And we'll be done. So I'll do that this evening and we can come back tomorrow for a final reveal of my nice new top. So I'll see you tomorrow when it's all finished. And I've still got a t-shirt to make with this lovely fabric. It's all cut out and ready to stitch together, so perhaps I'll do that this evening as well. It's a much more straightforward pattern, doesn't have all the gathers that this one had. Here we are the following afternoon, and I have finally finished my new flowy top. So now I have my new top and the old top I was copying. Now, although I said I was going to spend yesterday evening hand stitching in the hemming of the neckband and cuffs on this top, I actually spent the evening putting together the t-shirt that I've made from my leftover fabric. So my extra metre of fabric to keep the pattern going the right way on my slightly larger flowy top hasn't gone to waste. I've gained an extra t-shirt. At the very last minute, although I have enough of this orangey fabric to make a neckband for this t-shirt, I remembered I have some chocolatey brown t-shirt fabric left from my previous sewing project. Just enough to make a neckband and some cuffs for this t-shirt. And I think the contrast goes very nicely. So 2 tops. Time to go and try them on and see how well they fit. Oh my, it's a little darker in here than I'd anticipated. So here's my finished top, and I love it. Oh, too fast. And I love it. It's really comfortable, but so was the original top I've copied it from. There's no point copying clothes you don't like. Now the hem gave me a little difficulty. Not even sure I've got it perfect now. It doesn't look too bad, because at the sides here, this is not a mistake. It actually points downwards towards the side seam, and the same around here. So although you don't notice it when you do that at the front, it looks nice and straight, and I hope at the back as well. When you see it on the side and you're trying to turn a hem up, that angle gave me a little bit of a challenge. I'm so used to making things dead straight round the bottom, but it looks nice on. I'm perfectly happy with it. I'm loving the fabric, and I'm really enjoying the serger for working on these stretchy fabrics. It's ever so nice. I still love my sewing machine and will be using it lots, but I'm getting to grips with the serger and loving it lots too. Now, let's try that t-shirt. And the t-shirt. We'll do a twirl. There we go, all the way around. I'm glad I had that last minute pop of inspiration and did the chocolate brown neckline and cuffs. It makes this t-shirt look a little different to the flowy top. And although it looks fine like this, would be perfect with my jeans, or in this case, short skirt, playing around with it, I've also discovered it looks gorgeous with my chocolate brown velvety skirt that I made late last year. So here's that t-shirt paired with my long velvet flowy skirt. The colour combination is wonderful. It looks really nice together, especially as I added the brown trim to this t-shirt. It brings the outfit together nicely. So I'm very pleased with myself. A skirt I made from a velvet bedspread, some new stretchy fabric sewn on the serger I got for Christmas. Well, I got the fabric for Christmas as well. I'm loving the serger. It's really good fun and makes it so much easier sewing with these stretchy fabrics. I haven't fallen out with my sewing machine. It's still wonderful as well. So that's it for today. 2 new lovely tops. A t-shirt and a flowy summer tunic. So bye for now, and we'll see you next time. And remember, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it.
If you've enjoyed today's video, click that like button and let me know. Click subscribe and YouTube will make sure you see my next video. Bye for now and thanks for watching. And don't forget, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it.